My father's surgery was connected to the house. The house was originally a square building that was built as a part hospital, officers' quarters in the Murray Wars, just underneath Marsland Hill. And my grandfather, who was the second doctor in Taranaki, came out from Glasgow, and he came out about 1886. And then he went back and got my grandmother, who was a nurse, and she was one of the first nurses in New Plymouth, and they founded the New Plymouth Hospital. And so we could go in and out of the surgery, and I think we had more tetanus shots than any other kid in New Plymouth, because my grandfather apparently had horses at the bottom of the garden, so every time we cut ourselves, the nurse would hear the shrieks and we would get a tetanus injection. So I grew up with, on the weekend, once I got old enough and I was interested enough, we always would go out on calls with Dad. If he was called out in the middle of the night, we would go out to open the farm gate and find that Johnny had stopped crying. And so the family went back to sleep, and there was the poor doctor out in the middle of the night. So I was brought up doing those kinds of things, and we always did the rounds with Dad when he went to see his patients. And once I started secondary school, I went to Marsden, in the latter years of that. And in the sixth form of Marsden, we were allowed to do one thing outside of the school. And a lot of us did what was called pre-nursing, not because we wanted to do nursing. We were probably thinking we were doing something else. And even if we did have ideas of nursing, a lot of us were put off by emptying bedpans and keeping beds absolutely immaculate with the pillows all in line. And I knew after a little bit of pre-nursing that that was not for me. I didn't want to do that. And on the weekends when he didn't have a nurse, I would help him with sterilising instruments or hole passing them when he was stitching up rugby players with their cuts around their eyes, which I hated. And so that told me, no, I don't think I want to do medicine, because I don't think I can inject an anaesthetic so close to the eye and do some of these other gory things. So I looked around to see what was not so gory, physiotherapy being one of them, being a radiotherapist, not a radiologist, because that was medicine. And medicine got rejected because I was fundamentally awful at maths. And you had to have an A in maths. So my father offered to send me overseas to England, where he had had his education. But at 18, or even I was under 18, because I didn't do upper six. So when I first went to physiotherapy, I was 17 and a half. So I was underage, which meant when I graduated, along with, at our recent reunion where we were talking about this, there were about 5 or 6 of us that were paid as a physiotherapist, but registered as a physiotherapist assistant, because we couldn't be registered under the Act until we were 21, and we weren't 21, which was a problem, just a small problem. So I applied for physiotherapy, and I was interviewed by the head physiotherapist at the New Plymouth Hospital, who I remember to this day, after all my professional career being in physiotherapy, asked me, looked at my hands and said I had good hands for physiotherapy. Well, in actual fact, I had terrible hands for physiotherapy, because I had polio when I was young, and I didn't, my father being a doctor nursed me at home, and I didn't have stretchers, as doctors will want to not do those kinds of things sometimes with their own children. They might do it with others, but their own children got a bit neglected. So I have very stiff hands, and I can remember in massage taking off from the buttocks and sort of making contact in the thorax. You were meant to sort of do the lumbar region, sort of get in the lordotic part. I never could make it. I would lose contact and sort of re-land again, which was complicated because it meant that I was very good at deep transverse frictions, Cyriax deep transverse frictions, which is a skill that I feel is not being taught enough today, because of all the massage techniques, it has some merit. Not good scientific evidence, but there is some evidence that at certain stages this worked. But the end result is that I should probably sue the physiotherapy profession, because I have one wicked arthritic index finger from the amount of deep frictions that I did. So The massage was a problem in my life as a physiotherapy student because I was always losing contact and I had these very stiff hands that didn't mould well, etc. However, in those days you did 2 years in Dunedin and then you did 9 months at one of 4 places outside of Dunedin, and you went back for, I think it was something like 8 or 10 weeks, and you had some concentrated lectures and you had your finals, both practical and theory. Well, just before the start of the finals, I went down one of the Dunedin hills in the evening on a borrowed bike, whose mudguard proceeded to come loose and jam the front wheel, whereupon I went over the top of the bike and slid several feet down the hill on my face and on my hands and on my knees. So I had wrecked hands and I couldn't have massaged for about 3 months by that. I mean, they spent a great deal of time picking little bits of gravel out. So I got given a pass for the practical, which was just as well. I mean, the theory I could kill, but the practical would have been the problem. So that was how I got through massage. And if we were to talk a little bit about massage today, it's a shame that physiotherapists have so little time with massage because now they have no expertise to even use it as a precursor to doing exercises or those other kinds of things. Hence the rise today, interestingly, of where we came from. Masseurs, there are more of them now than there have ever been. And you look at many private practices, I know, certainly in Canada, that they will have a masseur on the staff of the practice. Because most of the physiotherapists don't know boo all from anything and couldn't do an effective massage probably if they tried.